Can they hear me? Can they hear me live out there? Next beat. That ain't the beat I want to do.
Those was wood
another
beats
beat.
right
Another
there.
beat.
You know?
Nope. Give me another beat. Give me another beat. Nope. That's not it. That's the beat. Turn it up.
Oh, word.
Turn it up. I gotta hear it a little louder. Can you make it louder than my headphones? Turn me up in my headphones. I'm still stuck in the 80s/90s. Lottos, kangaroo boots, nanny ghosts, Velas, jumpsuits and troops, Junos, color Levi's, Bugs Bunny sweaters with the rhinestone ring on it. Fighting and making up the next day. Nobody getting shot. Working or hustling to get it or get got. We had love for the streets, our family, our foes, our friends. Respect for the elderly. Pager/payphone, sneaking into Adams Theater. Watching Crush grooving tougher than leather. Hopping gates out the college port to bang out, cause you don't wanna get caught at mom's crib or at Vaughn's crib. Eating funny dinner with the fam. Church every Sunday, 8 o'clock a.m. And even if I fell asleep in the back row or played sick, no matter what, man, I still had to go 80s, baby. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. He's a DJ, I'm the rapper. 80s, baby.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the milestone edition tonight of the X-Cast, because this is webisode number 100 of the X-Cast. It's day 5,400 in the search for Tim Shovelday. I'm your host, Josh Houslander. With me, as always, my podcasting pal, Adam Hernandez. What's up, man? How you doing?
It was a lively politics show, wasn't it?
We did, yeah. We're getting a late start tonight because we went extra long and had a real good show on Politics of the Empire tonight with Dorf.
I had two guys who love listening to the sound of their own voice.
Oh, yeah, you and Dorf, I know. Two guys who were they both Dorf? The guys that love.
One was Dorf, and the other was.
It was me. Yeah. Hey, I do love the sound of my own voice.
I know.
Yeah, almost as much as Adam does. But hey, webisode number 100, man. We made it.
Yeah, we did.
We've been 100 episodes of the X-Cast. Is that the longest we've done a show together? Did we do more than 100 with the majors?
Yes,
we did more than 100 with the majors.
Yeah,
I know you guys are up at over 200 now with the majors live.
No, we're over 300.
Over 300 with the majors live. Yeah,
we've done well over 100.
Okay. How long were we on the majors together? Did we get to 200 or no?
Yeah.
Okay, me and you got to 200 on the majors.
I think you got up to did you get up to 175 on the majors?
Maybe.
I think it did.
That. I just couldn't remember if me and you got to 200 or if 200 was with the new crew.
Or did it get up to I think it might have gotten up to 245.
With you and I?
Yeah.
Okay, on it. And Nick too. And Scott originally, and Artifact originally.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because it took kind of the mold from the older Grouty episodes.
Right.
There was 10 people.
Oh yeah.
On an episode, and some. God. That was...
Yeah. No. Initially, the majors there was 5 hosts on that show.
It got
you, me, Nick, Scott, and Artifact, and Chris and Scott. We would then switch off.
Yeah, I mean sometimes you'd have Pete or Diggler on there.
That's true. Originally, that's
sometimes,
true.
I think Goof made an appearance at one point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to give kind of a little background, I mean, the Majors Live, which is now our longest running show. This being the second longest running show, in the whole Empire Media family. TMSNX.
Yeah, I think so.
But I mean, still 100 episodes of this is awesome, but still dwarfed by the over 300 with the Majors Live. But yeah, Majors Live technically started as a segment on Detroit Grouty Radio, and then branched off to its own show. But yeah, it was fun. Good, the good old days of podcasting. But that's not us anymore. Now we're well into the hundreds.
It was kind of funny too, because before we did the politics show tonight, we were talking about Grouty and kind of going over the whole Grouty just culture. With Dorf.
Well, because we're talking to Dorf, who's younger than us a little bit, and he's he's been podcasting with us for quite a while now, and has done a whole bunch of shows himself too. But Adam made the comment about how me especially, but him and I would never be able to run for public office because of what we've said on podcasts over the years. And Dorf kind of took issue with that at first. This all happened off air, but he just said, "Oh, that's not true, guys. You know, I don't think that's true." And Adam was kind of like, "Dude, you obviously haven't listened to the old Detroit Rowdy Radio, have you?" Because if they dug that stuff up,
it got pretty bad.
Yeah,
it got pretty bad.
It was pretty grotesque at
Yeah.
times, actually. So if you ever are listening to the Xcast and think, "Wow, these guys are kind of childish," or "These guys are kind of
dumb."
Yeah, kind of. That's like you. This has got nothing on Detroit Rowdy Radio.
Yeah.
the dumb stuff we say on here from time to time is nothing. And I mean, we make our fair share of fart jokes and stuff here, but nothing like the good old days. Yeah, I have a feeling some of the Detroit Rowdy Radio stuff would have made Howard Stern cringe, but that's not us anymore. We've grown as podcasters.
Yes, we're more mature now.
Yep. With that being said, dude, you see the Avengers yet?
Nope.
Well, I did. Midnight show. Hey, if people haven't seen the Avengers and you haven't yet, turn down your radios, and by radio I mean whatever internet device you're watching or listening on. But this isn't all about spoilers. I just wanted to talk about the Avengers a little bit because, man, I loved it, dude. You gotta get caught up on the MCU, the Marvel movies, because just as a comic book nerd from way back, man, they really just did such a great job. And I'm not getting paid to say this or anything. I'm not trying to. Disney doesn't need my help. Yeah. But man, really, just what a great job they did at just wrapping it all up and just bringing it all in. I absolutely love it, and I'm sure we got some more MCU movies coming. I know they're making another Spider-Man, and I think they're gonna make definitely make another Guardians. I think because they got James Gunn back on board, they decided to forgive him for a mean tweet he made 7 years ago or whatever their issue was with him. Again, James Gunn's tweets got nothing on what we used to say on Detroit Rowdy. Say and do on Detroit Rowdy Radio back in the day. But, yeah, I know I hear they're making another Doctor Strange. So I know there is going to be some more, but this kind of really wrapped up the whole Avengers universe. And very cool, man. Very cool. And even to the point where I remember watching the very first... My son actually reminded me of this. Because I'm such an awesome dad that I brought him to the midnight show and then drove him to school the next morning. I'm sure he was really productive. I was waiting for a call from a teacher or something saying, "What? Your son was falling asleep all day," or something. I don't know. But I didn't, luckily. But I remember he reminded me that when I saw the first Avengers movie, I was kind of butthurt, and I was mad that Captain America didn't say Avengers Assemble. Mm-hmm. But then, he finally said it in this one, and it was so perfect that I was just like, wow, I don't know if that was pre-planned to have him not say it till the last one, but whether it was pre-planned or not pre-planned, it worked perfectly and just super cool,
You know what? I will not. You and I aren't lockstep in our politics, but something I will trust you on, and something I'm pretty lockstep with you in is movies.
Yeah, I can't think of many movies that you and I have ever disagreed on.
I think especially like nerd movies, and especially Star Wars too. I think you and I are in total agreement when it comes to the Star Wars universe.
Yes. Definitely.
And I will say this, that it is quite the relief that Disney hasn't fucked up the Marvel universe like they have with the Star Wars universe. Because I was watching, May the 4th was, obviously this past Saturday, and on TV they usually do the marathon of Star Wars movies. They start from Phantom Menace and go all the way up to that garbage that was just released a couple years ago. And man, I will tell you that it is... Seeing those new movies compared to the old ones is just it's such a travesty.
It really is.
It is such a travesty, and I'm not saying the because they did show Rogue One, they didn't show Solo.
Sure.
But Rogue One, like I've said many times
Did
before.
they show it in order, in chronological order?
Yes, they did. They didn't.
Okay, so they showed it between episode 3 and 4?
Yes, they did.
That's cool.
They didn't do the machete order or anything like that. They showed it I think how they're supposed to show it. And it's just such a disappointment watching those older ones and then seeing the new quote unquote movies.
I know.
But I'll tell you what though, it is such a relief to hear that the Avengers movie was done well and done in a way that maybe it was supposed to be done, because Disney has certainly developed a more recent track record of ruining franchises.
You got that right.
And thank God that that's not the case with the Avengers. And maybe it gives a little bit hope too that in the age of reboots, because the Marvel universe has been rebooted how many times now, maybe Disney will do the right thing and reboot the Star Wars universe.
Maybe, man.
At least, and I'm just talking the new movies that they did. Right.
I'd love to see that. What I think they just nailed so properly with the MCU is that, they made them great cinematic masterpieces, and but they still paid such great homage to the comics, but they seem to do such a good job of recognizing that some things just really aren't translatable from a comic book to a movie. I love comics, especially I love old Gold Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age comic era. I absolutely love those comics. And some of the stuff is so awesome, but some of it really is just too cheesy to translate to
put
a
on
movie.
screen, yeah.
And they really seem to recognize that and do it properly. One kind of little example I give, because over the weekend afterwards, obviously we don't have Endgame on video yet, and I'm not going to pay to see it 100 times. Maybe once or twice more. But so my son popped in Civil War, which is one of my favorite.
I have seen that one. It is a good
movie.
movie. It is a good movie.
That's one of my favorite ones. So we pop that in, and one kind of example I give is what they do with Red Wing, with Falcon and Red Wing, and that they make him that little robot. And I thought that was such a great homage to the comics, yet recognizing that it can't really be done, because in the comics, Red Wing is an actual falcon. Falcon has a pet bird, that flies around and helps him and all that stuff. But how dumb would that be in a movie? Really, they made Falcon a really cool character in the movies, and they, paid homage to the idea that him and Cap are buds, and he's kind of his sidekick, more like his partner, and they're just they're friends and they're buds. And Falcon was always a cool character in the comics, and he's a really cool character in the movies. But I like that they obviously recognize we can't have him walking around with a bird.
Well,
stupid.
These companies do their best to kind of get the primetime characters in one movie, as opposed to, if they would have gone through the comic, then there would have been kind of this weird, kind of lineage to some of these characters. Take for instance X-Men. Well, actually, you know what? That might not be a good example, because they didn't. No, yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. Never mind. Nightcrawler and Mystique. Mystique is the mother of Nightcrawler.
Yep.
Now, they could have done that in the movie, and I don't know if that would have been a little bit weird, or I don't know how it would have messed with the storyline, but I kind of liked it the way that they did it in the movie, where they weren't related.
Yeah.
Because if they were related, there would have just been, I don't know, there would have been much more story to it than needed to be told, or even if they had time to tell it in the movie. Right. I don't think they would have had time to tell it in the movie. If you want to go and read the actual, or hear about the actual, story to all of these characters, then go and read the comic books.
Yeah, and they kind of throw a little bit of homage to the idea that Mystique is Nightcrawler's mom, but they didn't make a movie about it. They don't really mention it, but they do kind of show you that, because then they showed one that was in the 60s in First Class.
Yes.
And they show a very young Mystique, and the character who is Nightcrawler's dad is there as well. So you kind of have this idea where it's like, oh, well, there's Mystique and Nightcrawler's dad, and they're young. And, so, okay, so they didn't, destroy it, but they didn't really, they didn't build a movie around it either.
And that's a good point. Who's Mystique's dad, or who's Nightcrawler's dad? The red guy.
Yeah, what's his name?
He was on your fantasy team.
Yeah. Wow, crap, I can't remember his name.
Because the other one was Tsunami,
is it
right?
Azrael or something like
yes.
that? Yes. Yeah,
Azul.
Yeah.
Is it Azul?
I think, yeah.
Or Azazel or
Azazel.
something.
Yes,
Azazel,
Azazel, that's his name. Yes,
he's the demon-looking guy.
Right. And in the comics, he actually is a demon.
Is he a demon?
Yeah, but
he's a cool character.
Yeah, he's very cool. He's very cool. Yeah, and in the movies, they make him more like, nah, he's just a mutant like the rest of them.
And you know what? I kind of like the reboot that they did to the X-Men.
I did too. Yeah.
I mean, I like how they started out in, with the old X-Men First Class, and I like that storyline and that progression. And they eventually brought in Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen too, and that was cool. I liked when they did that, because
old Professor X and young Professor X.
Yes,
together,
because it had such a cool. There's such good actors from the first X-Men set of movies, and there were also some really cool characters and some cool, good actors from the new set of X-Men movies, and I like how they brought that together. I do think, though, that the newer storyline, the newer reboot to all of it, was a lot better. I mean, what was it? Last Stand was on a couple of nights ago, and I was like, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, the new version is just so much better than all of this.
It was okay at the time, but it's just not that good. Yeah. And the last thing I would want to do is criticize Avengers Endgame, because it is such a great film, such an awesome movie. But the only thing missing from it, if you're watching, is like, oh man, it would have been so cool if the Avengers and the X-Men weren't one owned by Disney and one owned by Fox.
Yeah.
And never say never.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll culminate all of them together, but it's like, man, there really could have been one Endgame movie with the Avengers and the X-Men and the Fantastic Four and all of them wrapped into one.
Does that make you a little disappointed that they did this Endgame thing? Maybe they did it a little too soon before, Disney could get those rights. I
still feel like they could do it.
Yeah.
I feel like they could.
Oh, yeah. I mean, never say never when it comes to something like this.
They could bring it all back for something. And even some of the characters that that don't make it out of this movie, and I know I already told people that there could be spoilers, but I'm not going to bother to spoil that. Right? But yeah, of course, there's some characters that don't make it out. But, in the X-Men universe, they brought in multiple realities, and in this Endgame movie, they bring in time travel. So, what's stopping you from bringing anybody back if you can time travel?
I'm still holding out hope they bring Star Wars into this galaxy.
Yeah, it wouldn't bother me.
I'm telling you, how fucking cool would that be if all of a sudden Star Wars came into, the Milky Way galaxy? Because if that happens, then all of a sudden you're getting Darth Vader going up against Iron Man.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to see
Darth Vader would kill Iron Man.
Yeah, Darth Vader kills the Marvel universe. I'd be at that movie.
Oh my god, it'd be so good. And
Wolverine fight Boba Fett.
Oh, that'd be good. Wolverine would win that one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Trying to think of some other good.
But I feel like before that, will Disney just buy DC already? And just and do that right, and have a Marvel versus DC movie.
I know. You know what's funny. Josh, is this is like, because I think this is where we agree on some political issue when it comes to monopoly and shit like that. I think our nerd tendencies are kind of taken over in this from this standpoint.
Oh yeah, I totally want Disney to have a monopoly on
comics. Yes, please. I don't even care if it was Disney. Just somebody have a monopoly on comics, just so we can see, so we can see Superman take on.
I've thought that my entire life, actually. As a kid reading comics, I actually always wanted like would somebody just buy both these companies and just make the comics all together?
Yes, make them merge, and then we can have Superman take on Galactus or Silver Surfer or something like that.
And yes, of course, there've been their handful of crossovers they've done over the years, but it's always just like a what if type thing, a multiverse crash or something. But
and there are characters that resemble.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, courts have ruled that Marvel and DC are not allowed to sue each other anymore because they've copied off each other so many times that it's pathetic. I mean, Marvel or DC has a character called Deathstroke whose name is Slade Wilson, and Marvel has Deadpool whose name is Wade Wilson. like that's a coincidence? Like, no, you copied off of.
Yeah. I mean, even certain powers too. I mean, Quicksilver and the Flash.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, it's
Thanos and Darkseid are the same freaking character. Yeah. They're the same damn character.
One is more known than the other, but
right. Yep. Yeah, and now Thanos seems to be the one more known. Thanos is the copy.
Oh yeah,
Thanos is the ripoff.
Yeah,
but it's I would love to. I would love to see that monopoly happen. I'm not gonna lie.
No, neither would I. And it's so funny too. I mean, I'm going back to Star Wars, but Spielberg already hinted at the Star Wars universe infringing on the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already happened. It already happened in E.T.
Yeah.
Just make it happen again.
Yeah, and Lucas gave it credence when he put E.T.s in the E.T.s in the Phantom Menace. So it's there. It's there. I mean, the Milky Way does exist in the Star Wars universe.
Even they say it too. I mean, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
So it's already implying that the Star Wars universe is out there. You just have to find a way to get there, or they have to find a way to get
their technology is way better than ours, so they'll probably have to come to us.
Yeah. Oh, okay. If it happened in a galaxy far, far away too, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, imagine where they are right now.
Yeah.
Technologically speaking.
Yeah. Really. Good point. Good point. That's kind of a weird thing too. Is like they have their big like galactic senate or whatever in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So is there like some like little group, some planet that like lays claim to the Milky Way, like that's just part of their like sector?
Well, I'm assuming it'd probably have to be a planet.
They don't let those peons vote yet, but that's.
I'm assuming it would have to be a planet on the outer rim, right?
Yeah, probably. And we're some like little tribe, and like in off in Africa somewhere that is technically part of the UN, but they don't even know it. That'd be like us in the Star Wars universe. But you know what, guys? If you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, even if you're not a comic fan, if you're not into this, it's a great movie. It really is. It's such a great movie. And just go for it.
Yep.
And hey, we're talking about all this crazy stuff. I'll reboot Star Wars, have a Marvel versus DC movie. And I've said this before, people to like, oh, I'm holding out for a Marvel versus DC movie. And people always have the same reaction. They always say, oh, come on, Josh, that's impossible. That will never happen. Well, guess what? I'm 38 years old. And if somebody told me when I was 14 that there would someday be an Ant-Man movie, I'd have told them they were crazy. I said, get the hell out of here. Like they'd make an Ant-Man movie. Well, it's going to be a trilogy, okay? There's going to be a freaking Ant-Man and Wasp trilogy. And like blockbuster films. So yeah, I couldn't have guessed it. Stan Lee couldn't have guessed it, which is why he used to joke before he died about, how he sold the rights to these movies in like the 70s because, and
for like nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Stan Lee made no money off the MCU at all. But hey, whatever. He made his money. He had his his success in other ways, and he'll always be remembered as an icon.
They made a Bumblebee movie.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It would have been crazy to think when I was 8 that someday there will be a live action Transformers, and now I'm sick of them. Now I'm just like, cut it out, Transformers.
Aren't the Transformers movies, aside from the Bumblebee movie, horrible?
I never even saw the Bumblebee movie. I wanted to because it was a throwback, and I saw Soundwave in it, so I kind of want to see that. But yeah, I mean, the first couple Transformers movies, I enjoyed them, but yeah, I mean, they're kind of like Michael Bay, like, explosion fan fiction.
I'm sorry, I hate Michael Bay. I can't stand Michael Bay. I think his movies are shit.
Yeah. And then there's like those two right in a row. The Transformers movies kind of run together, but there's those like two right in a row with like the huge one and those two little cars who are like the comic relief. It's like, that was a 120-minute long dick and fart joke with robots in it. That's what that movie was. And with that being said, like, I kind of enjoyed it, I guess. Yeah. But like some of those movies, that's like all it was. It's like you just like showed us giant robots while making dick and fart jokes, and you threw in Megan Fox, who's hard to not want to look at all the time, and that was it. Yeah. And a whole bunch of explosions, and boom. Where, I mean, the MCU, the Marvel movies, especially the Avengers movies, that's not them. They're such good movies. You know, they really are. They're just such good movies. Great character development, great movies, amazing action scenes. The one we were talking about, the Captain America Civil War, I feel like they should sit down everyone in Congress and make them watch that movie. And then at the end of it, say like, okay, you're a Republican. Okay, you're a Democrat. Which side do you think you are? Because I have a feeling like everyone's going to say they're on the same side. And it's like, no.
I knew it.
One of you isn't. Like, you guys decide. Which one are you? You know? You're not both Captain America's side. You're not. In fact, you're both kind of acting like Iron Man's side. I'm just saying, you know. And he's not all bad, but...
And Iron Man was for the registry.
Right. Yeah. Which, again, such a cool throwback to the comics. You know, in the comics, it wasn't a superhero registry. It was a mutant registry. Mm-hmm. You know, they were, doing the mutants and, or actually, I'm sorry. In the comics, it was a superhero one. In the X-Men movies, it was a mutant one because they could only do X-Men, and then in, the Avengers. So the Avengers and X-Men movies both kind of tied into that, but they both tied into it to kind of lend themselves to the only characters they were allowed to show. So I feel like they both did a good job, even though at times they were handcuffed.
You know what sucked for that when it came to that movie, the Civil War movie, for me, was I agreed more with the Captain America side, but I thought the cooler characters were on the Iron Man side.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Cap's side.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
Everything about it?
Yeah. I mean, Iron Man had Spider-Man, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's
I love Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm a big Hawkeye fan, actually. Everybody rags on Hawkeye.
I know, everybody does rag on Hawkeye, and for good reason, too.
Well, even the Deadpool movie, what does he say in the Deadpool 2 when they put the collar on him so he loses his power, so then his cancer kicks back in. He can't fight. He's just like, with this collar on, I'm just nothing but pure cancer. Give me a bow and arrow, I'm practically Hawkeye. Like, damn.
God, that's something else that needs to happen too. We need Deadpool crossovers here too.
Well, they claim with the MCU, with Disney taking it over, that they're going to reboot everything but Deadpool.
Okay, good.
So they're gonna just
Deadpool's
just gonna be Deadpool 3, and it's gonna be directly off those.
Is Deadpool part of the MCU too?
No, he's technically part of the X-Men universe.
Okay.
And they reference it and they show it, but it's pretty much on the outskirts, And Colossus seems very different in the Deadpool movies than he did in the original X-Men movies, but it's supposed to be the same character. It's supposed to be the same dude.
Yeah, and I know the Deadpool Colossus is more true to the actual comic book character of Colossus.
Yeah, definitely.
He's supposed to be Russian, which he is, and I thought he's a much better character in the Deadpool movie too.
And technically some of the guys, like Beast, who's played by what's his name from Cheers, Kelsey Grammer, is in Deadpool for a second.
Is he?
Yeah, just for a second, and a cameo.
Now, which one is more true? Is it the Kelsey Grammer Beast, or is it the
probably the young guy?
The young guy is more true to it.
Yeah, where he was, because in X-Men #1, which is Beast's first appearance, he is not furry.
Okay.
He gets that later.
Okay.
Through and it's same thing. He's trying to get rid of his powers, and instead he makes them
worse.
And that's another cool thing with X-Men and Avengers, like you were saying, Adam, that they kind of had to tie in. Like I was trivia questioning my son the other day. It's like name me the 5 original X-Men, and I said name me the 5 original Avengers. Can you do it?
No.
Okay, the 5 original X-Men: Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and Angel. 5 original.
Did Angel become Archangel?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Same dude. So Wolverine is not an original member of the X-Men. In fact, he doesn't show up for about 12 years. He's they start in 63. He shows up in 75. But at this point, you couldn't have a first X-Men movie and not have Wolverine in it.
Yeah.
So they had to change that, and I think they did a good job to change it.
Now, was it how it was in the comics, how it is basically in the movie, where Wolverine was very resistant to joining the X-Men?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good.
Yeah. No, for sure. And so I asked my son, I'm like, well, name me the 5 original Avengers. The first one he says is Captain America, which, no, it's Thor, Iron Man, Hulk, Ant-Man, and the Wasp are the 5 original Avengers. But Captain America is so part of the Avengers.
Yeah.
You couldn't start the Avengers movie and not have Captain America in it from the beginning. Now, after 40 years of comics, so they did a good job with that.
Yep.
They did a great job with that. You couldn't have Captain America join later.
Yeah.
Which actually would have been more true to the comics to have Captain America join later. But that's, yeah.
I mean, they could have done something like they did with the Star Wars, universe. And it was kind of funny too, because my mom's boyfriend asked me about this because I had Star Wars on the other day, and he was like, "Why did they start where they did?
Yeah,
in the trilogy, as opposed to starting from episode 1?" And I said, "Well, first, I think that people can get more on board with the original trilogy and the makeup of it than they could with episode 1 and episode 2 and then episode 3, because I think there's more relatable not necessarily more relatable characters, but more interesting characters. I mean, you had the Empire, or the Emperor. You had Darth Vader. You had Luke. You had Han Solo. You had Princess Leia. You had
a story about a rebellion.
Yes, a story about a rebellion against against an evil empire, and again, very, very, very relatable story to a lot of people. And you also learn about the Force. I mean, we all have watched episode 4, where Obi-Wan Kenobi tells us about the Force, and then you have Han Solo, ragging on it and everything. If you went to episode 1 and they started talking about the Force, people would be like, "What the fuck is the Force?"
Yeah, it's made up.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's like, so there's just a whole bunch of people now of the same goofy power.
Yeah, I mean, you need Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 4 to talk about what the Force is.
Yeah, those movies do such a great job of sparking the interest of the movies get made later.
And
I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
Yes, and explaining all the different aspects and everything, all the different major themes and storylines and everything that would come into play both after this trilogy and before this trilogy. So could the MCU have done something like that?
Possibly,
with the Avengers? Yeah, they could have. They could have picked up with the most interesting makeup of the Avengers, and then transition back to, okay, well, where did it all begin? And in fact, maybe they'll do that, and it may be an interesting aspect
on a much smaller scale. Supposedly they're making a Black Widow movie, and it's going to be a prequel.
Okay,
it's going to be a prequel where she's, it's going to be her as a spy.
Okay,
So I guess they are kind of doing that to some degree.
Okay.
But I've seen some cool memes. Have you ever seen the memes where they're taking, you know, a scene from the original Star Wars, but then they just start telling a story about, you know, the old one instead. Like I've seen the one a few times where it's, you know, it's Luke saying, "So you were a Jedi Knight?" And Obi-Wan's like, "Yeah, dude, it was sweet. I fought this one 4-armed robot dude like 6 times." like random stuff like that, you know. Like yeah, it's kind of cool. Because you know, you'd think maybe you would tell those kind of stories, like
yeah,
or Luke saying like yeah, I've promised to keep Ben Kenobi. I have to meet up with Yoda. And Chewie saying like, "Oh, Yoda, I know that dude."
Oh, you're meeting up with Yoda?
I saw him do a backflip and chop off Commander Gree's head. It was awesome.
Yeah, we go way back.
But hey, you never know what Chewie's saying. Maybe that's what he's saying in the background.
It could be.
It's like, oh yeah, saw him chop off 2 clone troopers' heads.
Oh, you know what we forgot to mention? Chewie died.
Yes, Peter Mayhew did die. That was a bummer. That was a bummer. And he died somewhat young. Was he 74? I
Something
think?
like that. He was in his 70s, which is it's young.
That is young. On the other hand, people who are that tall, because he kind of had like a form of giganticism.
Yeah, they have health problems.
They typically don't actually live that long.
Yeah.
So not that makes it better or something.
And he wasn't. I mean, when was the last time he was Chewie? Was it?
Oh, I think
was he Chewie in the first.
I don't think he was.
No,
I don't think he even was in the prequels. I think he just is in the 3. And I could be
wrong.
Wait a second.
Was Chewie wasn't even in the?
He's only in episode 3 of the prequels.
Is he?
Yeah, he's just in episode 3 with him and Tarful and Yoda, and you know, when Yoda climbs on his back.
Yeah.
At the end, I think. And again, I could be wrong on this. I think Peter Mayhew is listed in the credits as like a consultant, like a Chewbacca consultant. But it's not him in the suit, and I think he's mostly CG.
Is he
in those movies anyway? And it's not him in the suit in 7 and 8.
Okay.
Either. Same with oh shoot, what's his name? R2D2.
Yeah, he died.
Kenny Baker. Kenny Baker died some years ago. He was listed. He's in the credits for 1, 2, and 3, as, you know, R2D2 consultant or droid consultant or something. But it's all CG. He wasn't really clanking around in the garbage can anymore.
Was it you that posted that picture of Princess Leia, R2D2, and Chewie?
Yes.
Yeah. A little tear to the eye.
Yeah, it did. There's a few of them out there that I thought were pretty good. People do some good artist renditions. That same with when Stan Lee died too. I think there's some great ones.
How come they didn't put Tarkin in there too?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Grand Moff, Count Dooku maybe.
Count Dooku too.
Yeah, they've lost a few, and even Alec Guinness too. You know, Ben Kenobi.
Yep.
Died. When did he die? 10 years ago maybe or something.
No, I don't know. I thought it was longer than that.
Maybe was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but. He always kind of had a weird thing where he was kind of would rag on Star Wars a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Alec Guinness was kind of not like a huge... It seemed more...
Probably wouldn't be ragging on it now.
It came across as he was kind of butthurt, for lack of a better word, that's what he was remembered for, and he was a very established actor who had won Oscars and stuff, you know, before those movies, Bridge Over the River Kwai and movies like that.
What movie was that?
The Bridge Over the River Kwai.
Oh, okay. Never seen it. Next.
Probably his most famous movie that isn't Star Wars.
Okay. Whatever.
It's a good movie. It's a great book too.
Yeah.
Basically based loosely on the true story of the World War II, the building of to build the bridge and then blow it up, basically, so the Nazis couldn't get it back across. Great book.
Was the Empire in it?
The Nazis were, so kind of.
Yeah.
So basically, he's only Ben Kenobi in that movie too. So who cares? But No, it's a actually cool book too, and it was written by Pierre Boulez, he's most famous for the two books he's most famous for writing are Bridge Over the River Kwai and Planet of the Apes. Two like very different books that I don't know, I think most people wouldn't realize were written by the same author, but yeah, Bridge Over the River Kwai and Planet of the Apes written by the same dude. Both good books. Both.
Are there other Wookiees in it?
in Planet of the Apes, there's kind of. They talk better than Wookiees, but don't look as cool.
Yeah.
But do we want to get into the second topic of tonight's show?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, let's do it. Big jump from our our fun talk about nerd stuff and the Avengers, which you should definitely see if you have not. But we did a show about a month and a half ago, I'm thinking, about all the different presidential candidates, mostly Democratic candidates. We did touch on the, few...
Well, Bill Weld is going to primary Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah, we do have Bill Weld in there. We were guesstimating that perhaps Mitt Romney would jump in. I don't think he's going to.
I don't think he will either.
I think... I think that was. I think he had plans to. I think, or plans to perhaps.
I still don't think it'll. I still don't think it'll hurt him. It won't.
Yeah.
If he does decide to do it, it will not hurt him in his aspirations to run for Senate again.
Yeah.
I mean, Republicans in Utah are going to be much more aligned to Mitt Romney than they will Donald Trump.
Right, and he won in a pretty good landslide there. I don't think he's gonna.
He is there. I mean, he's their Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I mean, from the standpoint of just popularity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's Mormon and he's Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
well liked and he's got a good resume too. He's done a lot of good things actually. But yeah, it sounds like Bill Weld's going to be there. But one of the other guys we were formulating or guessing would probably enter the race, who we didn't really talk about before, is Joe Biden officially entered the race. So we thought we'd talk about that a little bit tonight. Joe Biden entered the race, Adam. You're more prone to perhaps vote in that primary than I'm going to be. Mm-hmm. And he basically entered and pretty much became the front runner immediately. Yeah. Do you think that's going to stick? I mean, sometimes you think like, oh, he's the front runner. Being the front runner a year and a half before the election might not be a blessing. You know what I mean? That might be that might not be a good position to be in, actually.
No, I know. And, all you have to do is just look at the Republican primary from 2015 and 2016, and you saw how that shaped out. I mean, Jeb Bush was the front runner, I believe, in the early stages. And
even the guys you thought were like the second in command, who would be next after him, were Chris Christie, Rudy Giuliani, guys who really, I don't think they were gone by Iowa, basically, in those cases, or barely in there.
Yeah, I think what Jeb was out after Florida. I think, or was that Marco? I can't remember which one. Maybe both of them. I can't remember, but
Jeb.
Was it Jeb? You know what though? Yeah. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah, because Jeb actually made a good play where his, he actually outperformed how they thought he was going to in that primary. I think you're right. I think it was Florida, and I know his supporters were kind of surprised that he kind of outperformed what they thought he was going to do, and then he said, "Nah, I'm out." Thanks, but I'm out.
I mean, I don't like Biden getting into it because I don't like Biden as a candidate. Mm-hmm. He is he's a neo-lib who's going to maintain a status quo in this country. Mm-hmm. That's what Joe Biden is. He's saying, I mean, this is what happens in a primary all the time, but you're gonna get the Democratic candidate saying everything that that Democrats are gonna want you to say. Joe Biden's been around, though.
Mm-hmm.
We know his record. We know what he's all about. The establishment loves him. The DNC loves him. We've seen what the DNC has done before to candidates that they don't like.
Yeah.
We saw it back in 2015 and 2016.
Oh, they screwed Bernie good.
They screwed Bernie to no other end. And you know what? They're probably regretting it. I hope they're regretting it right now.
I thought they regretted it, and now I'm seeing with Biden, and it seems like they're going to turn around and do it again.
You're right. Maybe, and you know what? Maybe that's an excellent point, Josh. And you know what? If they go and do something like that again, then you know what? They deserve to get their asses kicked by Donald Trump.
Is there an element, though, that's just saying, I feel like Joe Biden isn't any of the Democrats' guy. He isn't any of their favorite candidate or choice candidate. But is it just about Joe Biden's the only one that can maybe beat Trump? So we're gonna.
It's funny. It's funny you say that. And I hate mentioning polls just because we saw how polls worked out.
Yeah.
Well,
we all do it. We all quote polls all the time, even though they're wrong all the time.
In 2016, I don't want to say they're wrong all the time, but.
When I say wrong all the time, that doesn't mean that they're always wrong. I mean, but polls are wrong.
Yes, I mean
a prediction is wrong.
One of the most important polls that could have been taken in American politics wasn't very accurate this time around. I mean, it was accurate to some degree because Hillary did win the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College.
Yeah, but the fact that the Electoral College has rules shouldn't have been a surprise to the pollsters.
But what was your question, though?
Just that is he... Are people backing him because they feel he's the best bet to beat Trump?
Well, I saw this on MSNBC. I saw they ran one of their polls. You know, they did their head-to-heads with Donald Trump and which candidates would win, which candidates would lose. Pretty much all of them, aside from Elizabeth Warren, was beating Trump in a head-to-head. The one that had the best chance of beating Trump in a head-to-head, I believe it was Beto, with Biden and then Bernie filling up the top three. I think Kamala Harris was in there, and I want to say that was it, aside from Elizabeth Warren, who was losing to Trump head-to-head. And I saw that same poll the last time that you know, the last presidential election we had. I mean, Bernie was beating Donald Trump in a head-to-head.
And it's easy to say that in the primaries.
Sure,
these guys are popping in and they're hot.
Sure,
there were similar polls about how all the people that were going to beat Obama.
Yeah, I think Pete Buttigieg was in there. I think the problem with Pete Buttigieg, though, is the guy hasn't come up with any policy. He's had zero policy, and that's the thing. I know people want to make fun of.
He's young too.
He's very young, and I know, and I don't want to hold that against him though. A lot of people have been ragging on Elizabeth Warren. At least Elizabeth Warren, though, has some policy that she's throwing out there. But when it comes to Joe Biden, are people, especially the Democratic establishment, are they going to be afraid that, is he going to be the only one that's going to be able to beat Trump? Yeah, probably. And you think about it this way. Okay, you think about the Creepy Joe stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which I actually want to talk about that a little bit.
That's something that Trump people cannot get on him about. They can't do it. They can't do it because Trump is every bit as creepy as Joe Biden is.
The thing with the Joe Biden, the Joe Biden touching people or sniffing hair, I think is an absolute media travesty. I think it's not. I think it's terrible to rip on him for that. I really do. I'm so disgusted by them doing that. I'm not a Joe Biden fan.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna vote for the guy. It's not gonna happen. You know. I mean, I really don't see myself voting for. You know, I'll be wasting my vote again this in 2020.
You know what? I'm voting. If it's Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I will vote third party.
Really?
Yes, I'm not voting for a Democratic establishment.
No, and I like to hear people taking stands like that. I don't know that it really matters, but it's a stand I love taking, and I love hearing people get on board with it. the whole thing about him acting like he's a sexual predator because he, was touchy-feely, or I find it to be a travesty.
Look,
I find it to be offensive and ridiculous.
I'm not making a whole lot of inquiry into that myself. I'm not on board with Joe Biden because of his politics.
Yeah.
I know. That's not what I'm getting on board with Joe Biden about. But I do think that that's why the DNC is going to try to push him. Mm-hmm. It's because they think that he's going to be the only candidate that is going to be able to beat Donald Trump. And in many ways they may be right. Because how many people are going to be out there? How many Democratic voters are going to be out there? And we talked about this a little bit earlier tonight when we were on the air. I told you about that new or it's not new, but that way of counting votes, that way of electing somebody was the board account.
Oh yeah. Yeah, explain that real quick.
Yeah, the board account is it's a method of democracy where people will go and rank their candidates from the one they like the most to the one they like the least. So, for instance, if you are going and voting for president, say this last election, you can only vote for one candidate. You can only vote for Donald Trump. You can vote for either Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, Evan McMullin in some ballots, Jill Stein, Gary Johnson, and whoever else was on that particular ballot in that part of the country. Mm-hmm. You couldn't vote for two. You can only vote for one. The board account, what it does is I think it's also called ranked voting, is that you would vote, like say in Josh's instance, that this past election, Gary Johnson was probably going to be at the top of his list. So he would rank Gary Johnson as his top candidate. His second candidate would be Evan McMullin. His third candidate would be, Jill Stein. Fourth, Donald Trump. Fifth, Hillary Clinton. And they would count votes like that. So Gary Johnson would get so many points for being the top candidate or the most preferred candidate of Josh. And now when you add this up throughout the entire country, throughout all registered voters who decide to go out and vote for their candidates on election day, they would count up this based on this board account, based on who would get the most points based off this ranking system. So in that instance, you probably wouldn't have Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as the 1 and 2 in all of this, because they were such horrible candidates. They were such despised candidates. You had so many instances where people were holding their nose in voting for Donald Trump just because they just couldn't stand Hillary Clinton, or they voted for Hillary Clinton just because they couldn't stand Donald Trump.
I contend and have said for, even before this election, that the vast majority of people voting in 2016 were voting either against Donald Trump or against Hillary.
Yes, they were voting for the lesser of two evils. If you use this method, if this method was in place, then people could vote for who they actually preferred, as opposed to who they thought they had to vote for to keep the other person out of office.
Right.
And when you think about it, it's just such a more logical and better way of enacting democracy in this country.
Right. I mean, and it's not even, you'd say, I'm trying to think of how it should be described. Perhaps not even as a method of democracy, but as just as a method of franchise, if you will. Let's run it real quick. We won't even bother to say why we would have, and this is, I'm not speaking for me or speaking for you guys. I'm not even saying this. But okay, let's say that then I voted Johnson 1, McMullin 2, Trump 3, Stein 4, Clinton 5. And that you voted Stein 1, Johnson 2, Hillary 3, McMullin 4, Trump 5.
Okay.
I definitely wanted to say Clinton last for you, and and go who we actually voted for. But so then, just by ours, The score is Trump 8, Hillary 8, Johnson. No, I did that wrong. It's. Okay, I'm doing it wrong. Okay. 5, 4, 2, 3. I thought I could do this faster. Sorry. Okay, so then it would be Trump has 3 points, Hillary has 5, Johnson has 9, McMullen has 6, Stein has 5. So it's a whole mix of different things.
And in that
us
case,
2, Gary Johnson 1.
Okay,
but
and in that
obviously
case,
it's more than 2 of us are voting. It's a whole country doing that.
But Josh, in this instance, though, okay, in this election, how it actually shaped out, you had Donald Trump winning and Hillary Clinton losing.
Right.
Now, you're going to have a shit ton of people who aren't happy about this.
Right.
A shit ton of people, because there's going to be people who just despise Donald Trump in our wishy-washy on Hillary Clinton. And even if it was the other way around, there's going to be so many people who hate Hillary Clinton and are wishy-washy about Donald Trump. In this case right here, if Gary Johnson were to win, Josh would be happy, and I would be like,
right,
whatever.
And isn't that a better system where you're looking at this idea where, okay, we have to pick a leader for 300 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to be happy. But under the current system, you have a situation where 50% of the people are going to be miserable with it.
Yes.
Wouldn't you rather have a system where some people are happy,
like 10% are miserable?
10% are miserable, and a whole bunch of people are like, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah.
You're never going to get your perfect candidate, ever.
How many people out there right now, based on what we just did right now, I know it was only 2 people doing it.
Right.
But based on that, how many people out there could live with a Gary Johnson presidency right now?
Right. I think a whole bunch.
Again, not my politics, not my politician. I probably disagree with Gary Johnson more than I agree with him on. But would I rather have Gary Johnson than Donald Trump? Yes, I would.
Right. And the thing is, under that system, even assuming that all the people that voted for Trump still voted for Trump, and all the people that voted for Hillary still voted for Hillary, Trump or Hillary would not have won the election.
Yeah.
It would have been one of those other people winning. Now, expand on it further. Those people that voted for Trump, those people that voted for Hillary, under this system, maybe they wouldn't have, because they probably would have put Trump or Hillary second, but they wouldn't have felt like they had to vote for one or the other, because it's wasting your vote if you don't.
Yeah.
So now people aren't wasting their votes on it. And now there's going to be people, like you asked the question, would people hate if Gary Johnson was president? And I guarantee there would be somebody out there listening who would say, oh, Gary Johnson's a goofball. He didn't know what Aleppo was. Okay. That's all you know about Gary Johnson, because
he didn't know what Aleppo was.
Because the media decided to jump all over that and kind of
they decided to dispose of that candidate because he didn't know what Aleppo was.
Right. When really Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump each had a dozen gaffes, far worse than that, in speeches and debates and whatever.
Donald Trump said he grabs women by the pussy, and people are sitting there harping on Gary Johnson not knowing what Aleppo was.
Exactly. But so then, again, expand on it further. Maybe if this system was in place, maybe the libertarians wouldn't run somebody quite so goofy.
Yes.
They might not run somebody quite so goofy.
And again, I think
they might have run Ron Paul.
I think both of us are in agreement that Gary Johnson is kind of a goofy.
He is, yeah. He's kind of a goofy dude, I mean, but I think he's funny too. You ever see the clip where he's on the panel with the people and they're discussing all the negative things that marijuana can supposedly do? He's supposed to be the guy there saying that, marijuana should be legalized or decriminalized. And this woman starts just giving these nonsensical facts about how it's, leads to like heart problems and can cause heart attacks. And Gary Johnson just pretends to keel over like he's having a heart attack. So they talk about what years of smoking pot can do to you, and he just all goes falls over. It's good, but he's funny. He's proving a point. He's just saying like, listen to these dopes. But yeah, I mean, it's just so many people hate these other candidates, and you can bet that pretty much anyone that put Trump number 1 is going to put Hillary 5, and any person that put Hillary 1 is going to put Trump 5.
Yeah,
maybe not, but you'll never find out under our current system.
This is something too, and I know you kind of alluded to it earlier too, Josh, about when it came to thinking you had to vote for somebody, but it eliminates people voting for, just voting strictly down party lines.
Right.
Too, which is something that I think is a problem when it comes to voting, because people will see the R, people will see the D next to the name, and they will automatically vote for that person.
And I hate to make this criticism of people, because I think a lot of intelligent people fall into this category. But I know a whole bunch of people in my life, smart people, educated people, well-read people, who will tell you to your face, and they believe it themselves to some degree, but they will tell you, no, I would always just vote for the better candidate, or I would rather see this, I'd love to see this, or the two-party system's corrupt, or, all the stuff you hear constantly. At the end of the day, 95% of those people that say that stuff vote for the same R or the same D that they vote for in every goddamn election.
Yeah.
Every single time. You got 50-year-old people telling you that, oh, yeah, I want to see an end to this. It's like, but you've been voting for the same damn letter your entire life.
Yep.
For 30 years, you say you don't care about that. You say that you want the best, but you say you have standards you go by. You say you care about certain issues. But at the end of the day, you vote for that same R or you vote for that same D you've been voting for since you were 18.
Yep.
Sometimes people switch, but even when they switch, typically, then they just switch.
It's just from a D to an R, an R to a D.
Yeah, I used to be a Democrat, now I'm a Republican. I used to be a Republican, but now I'm a Democrat. But then once they make the switch, they're not prepared to make that switch regularly. They're just, no, I used to be a Republican, now I'm a Democrat.
Yep.
And they won't say it that way in so many words, but it's true. It's the truth. It's what you are. And I feel like we'd be better off if people at least acknowledged that.
And the funny thing is, too, I mean, it's so ironic, and it's so, like I said, it's funny that people make that switch from Republican to Democrat and then Democrat to Republican, when in many instances it's the same thing.
Right. You're so right.
It's the same exact thing. Yes, there's going to be little tiny differences here and there, which, and I know I say this, I've said this before, between a neoliberal and a neoconservative, but they're all essentially the same exact thing.
And both parties do the same thing. And when I say parties, I mean the people that vote for them too. You're a Republican, so it's good when a Republican does it. It's bad when a Democrat does it. You're a Democrat, so it's okay when a Democrat does it. It's terrible when a Republican does it. I mean, look at, and by the way, I agree with this. I oppose tariffs. But I see all these Democrats all over social media ripping Trump apart, how he's going to ruin the country with tariffs. It's like, when Democrats are for tariffs, you don't give a damn about tariffs. You don't care about tariffs one bit. Tariffs don't bother you at all. You've never lost a second of sleep over tariffs when Democrats are doing them ever in your life. And you hate tariffs because Trump likes tariffs. And same with, for 8 years, I heard Republicans crying about how Obama was going to take our guns. Oh my God, Obama was going to take our guns. Trump comes through with a bump stock ban, and I'm like a pariah amongst Republicans for criticizing him or saying that it's anti-Second Amendment to take this. I mean, it's like now Republicans just are lining up to give up their bump stocks. Like, take my bump stock first, Mr. Trump. I mean, it's pathetic.
Or
it's pathetic.
How, the ICE now with, deportations and stuff like that. And look, I think ICE is horrible. I think ICE needs to be abolished. But where was everybody on the left when Obama was deporting just massive amounts of people?
Right.
Or when Obama was, bombing, country after country in the Middle East.
Yeah, kind of like when they showed on the news all the, the kids in cages down at the border, and then they said, "Oh crap, those pictures were from when Obama was president." Like, it's still bad. If you're opposed to it, it's still bad.
But all of it,
still be opposed to it,
yes.
but just know that actually happened while your guy was president, not the guy you're criticizing right now.
Yeah,
it's the classic one that's to me just nothing more than hilarity, just pure comedy, is executive orders. Oh my God, just Republicans crying over executive orders when Obama did it, and Democrats saying it's okay. Then Trump gets in, starts executive orders. Democrats are crying, and Republicans are like, "Oh, but these are good executive orders." Like, no, they're not. No, they're not. Like,
you actually make a point before. I can't remember if it was on a show or not, Josh. But you've made mention before that there are good executive orders, and most of the time it has to do with military issues, just because the president is considered the commander in chief of the military, and what's a commander in chief if he can't be a commander in chief when it comes to the military?
If he can't be the chief of command.
Yeah, if you are, when you look at it from that point of American government, of an American government viewpoint.
Another one that in a form of executive order, and this is typically, and I know I'm not trying to just be like, yay, Ronald Reagan, he was the greatest ever. I do like Ronald Reagan. I would take him over of the presidents that have been around in my lifetime. Yeah, give me Reagan for the whole time, and I'd be content. And I'm far from perfect, but a kind of Reagan-esque, and not every single one he did, but a kind of Reagan-esque executive order was, you do an executive order that is the will of Congress. Mm-hmm. Congress are the legislators. Congress legislates, but most of the Reagan-esque executive orders, and he did do quite a few of them, were things that it was already plain that Congress was going to pass X, Y, or Z, and he began to execute will of Congress through an executive order beforehand. Basically to expedite the will of Congress, because Congress can't do things overnight. Congress can't do things as quickly as one man who is the executive can do. That is a kind of executive order that is constitutionally acceptable to some degree. If the president guesses wrong, well, then that executive order needs to be undone quick-like. But for the most part, you can see the writing on the wall, and you can see how Congress is about to act. And for a president to execute that with an order, prior, there isn't really an issue of unconstitutionality there, at least in my opinion. And I'm not necessarily a constitutional scholar, but that makes sense. I guess a example for modern day, and this hasn't happened yet, but if it were to become obvious that Congress was going to get rid of the marijuana laws, if they were going to do away with these, antiquated laws of jailing people for marijuana, and they were debating the vote or debating the ins and outs or who's going to get what bit of pork or who's going to get what add-on, and the president were to issue an executive order to say, nobody's getting arrested for pot anymore. Because it's become plain that this is the will of Congress and that will pass. That's not a terrible executive order. You know, it's when you have an executive order on something domestically that is basically you're legislating. Well, like Obama said, that I have a pen and I have a phone. You know, and like how Trump's done, where he just came in and said, Congress is basically a pain in my ass, so I'm just going to do it without him. Mm-hmm. No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's wrong. It's wrong. But again, you know, Trump does it and Republicans are okay with it. Obama did it. Democrats are okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, and if you wanna circle all of this back to Joe Biden, like I said, I mean, there's no difference between a neoliberal. There's no real difference between a neocon. There's going to be little nuances that are different between the two, but for the vast majority, they are pretty much the same thing. I mean, you could say that many Republicans are neoliberal. You could say that many Democrats are neoconservative. And when it comes to Joe Biden, he's going to maintain that status quo. He's not going to be any different fundamentally than, you know, what we've seen with in some cases with Barack Obama, in some cases with Donald Trump, and Joe Biden himself. It's just not. I mean, it's status quo to the teeth. Yeah. That's what Joe Biden is. And if that's what you want, then go ahead and vote for it. If that's not what you want, then vote third party.
Right.
Vote third party. There's not going to be any. Look, we are where we're at right now with Donald Trump. We are obviously halfway through his presidency, well, his first term, and we can see what happens within government. We can see the checks and balances that happen. Yeah. In some cases they work out, in some cases they don't. But for the most part, whatever it is that happens, I mean, take for instance those tax cuts that were supposed to be implemented to help the working class, to help the middle class in this country. Yeah. I want to ask a question out there to everybody. Have those tax cuts actually affected you at all? Probably not. Mm-hmm. Probably not. Now, would it have been any different if a Democrat was put in that position? A neoliberal Democrat? Probably not, which is what we have in most circumstances. I think the only difference that we're going to see when it comes to something like this is if Bernie Sanders wins on the left, or if it won't happen this time, but say if Gary Johnson won, back in 2000.
Ted Cruz. What was it? Even like a Ted Cruz.
Yeah. If either one of those two candidates, I think Gary Johnson more so than Ted Cruz. But if Gary Johnson won,
I only say Ted Cruz because we're talking taxes, and Ted Cruz is an abolish the IRS guy.
Yeah. That's the only time that I think you would see any real difference with any of this. Mm-hmm. Yes, Donald Trump talks a good talk when it comes to his base, but is the wall built?
Right.
No.
And as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to taxes, I don't care about the politicians and their smoke and mirror games with taxes. I'm an anti-tax guy, and that doesn't mean that I don't pipe dream high enough to say that, although I'm a taxationist stuff guy, that all taxes are going to be abolished. But when it comes to taxes, and this is doable, whether they want to admit it's doable or not, I'm basically, unless you're an abolish the IRS guy, GTFO, man. Really, I don't care. Because getting rid of the IRS is something that's very doable, and that doesn't mean we get rid of taxes. But I want to hear get rid of income tax, abolish the IRS.
And is Donald Trump going to do that?
Hell no.
No. Is Joe Biden going to do that?
God, no.
No, neither one of those guys are going to do it.
So they're smoke and mirror games. Trump's going to give more back to you in your... That's why people are so dumb, though. Trump technically did what he said. He said he'd give more back to you in your paycheck. Then people said, oh, you gave me more back in my paycheck, but then my return was smaller. Well, you didn't really think he wasn't going to tax you, did you? I mean, come on, morons. What did you think?
Or the whole notion that, oh, well, if we give a big tax break to big business and corporations, that somehow that's going to trickle down to the employee. Fuck off. Yeah. No, it's not.
It might trickle down to somebody, but it ain't you.
No, it's not you. Yeah, if you call trickling down a corporate CEO's pocket, then that it could trickle down that way. Another thing you're probably going to be hearing about, Josh, maybe down the line, maybe it's going to come from a Democrat, maybe it'll come from a Republican, but that universal basic income. Did you hear anything about that? Yeah. About how, the government is going to give you $1,000 a month every month, and start doing away with some social programs to help people. Again, it's another ruse. It's another guise for further government control over people.
Right.
And it's not something. Is it something that I'm going to die on a hill for? No. But is it any type of long-term fix to some of the financial problems that we have in this country? No. No, it isn't.
Right.
It's a bunch of bullshit. That's what it is.
Extra $1,000 a month. That sounds awesome. Until 2 years from now, and now your rent is doubled. Because that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. Do you know what's weird for me, Adam, is that, we've all been trained, or most of us have been trained in this country to vote for the lesser of two evils. Now, I'm proud to say, whether it actually matters or not, I'm proud to say that I have rejected the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils.
Mm-hmm.
I know that most people are still going to, but I'm not. That's just me. I am not. I am not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. I refuse. But I still can't help myself but look at it that way. And I'm kind of analyzing the Democratic platform, and as somebody that I don't like the Democratic Party at all. I don't like Donald Trump. So as I'm looking at all of them, I'm kind of thinking, all right, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump, and I'm not going to vote for them, but I am kind of looking at like who I'd rather have, like this guy or Trump. And I admit there are people on the Democratic side, Joe Biden being one of them, Bennett being one for sure, but he doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of Bennett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you recently joined that. I'm saying that right. He's from out west, right?
Yeah, there's so many. It's
right.
Huge right now. How many? You got Eric Swallow too getting in there, and it's just.
There are a few of them that I look at it, and I'll focus on Biden, I guess, for now. That I look at, okay, if it's Biden versus Trump, well, I'm not voting for either one of them. I'll be voting for third party. But there is a part of me that it's like, I would kind of want Biden to win that for a reason that I normally would oppose. And it's exactly what you said. You said, you want the status quo? You want to keep the status quo? Go ahead, vote for Joe Biden. But there's part of me that thinks, God, if Joe Biden were to get elected and serve for 4 years, because he'd probably only be a one-term president, then maybe it would bring some normalcy back to this country for a minute and just end this whole Trump thing that, economically, I probably side more with Trump than I do with Biden. But he's just such a polarizing pariah of a man that I feel like, God, if we just had boring old Joe Biden in there for 4 years,
it's kind of funny
it would just like... Maybe the country would just kind of go back to normal.
It's kind of funny.
I feel like the Republicans can't hate Joe Biden as much as they hated Obama or as the Democrats hate Trump.
Yeah.
Because he's just a dude. Yeah. And like the meme, the kind of like baseless criticism of Biden, it's nothing more than just a silly joke or a talking point, but there's just that little bit of truth in it. Is Joe Biden's that guy that he's been in politics for 50 years, and now he's going to change things.
Exactly.
Like Joe Biden's been there. I mean, he's been in office longer than I've been alive. And what have you done to make the country a better place? 8 years as vice president, 1 million years in the Senate and the House. Nothing, dude.
And
Nothing.
and the thing is too, Josh, and he was part of a very, very influential wing of the Democratic Party. I mean, we're not talking about a Bernie Sanders who's a Democratic socialist but caucuses with the Democrats in the Senate just so he can have some type of place there.
Sure, a fringe guy who's witnessed a change in a party that now he feels he could lead.
Yes, or we're not talking about a Rand Paul who, in many cases, the same thing as Bernie Sanders, just on the right. You know, he's very much a libertarian,
right? But
he calls himself a Republican just to, kind of prop himself up a little bit.
Because in guys like Bernie Sanders and guys like Rand Paul who disagree with their own party a lot, and I know that Bernie Sanders is technically just recently an actual Democrat.
The thing with Bernie Sanders, though, is a lot of, the Democratic, talking lines now are
his stuff
are more towards
right.
Bernie Sanders.
Bernie's been more successful with it than Rand Paul has
yes,
been,
he has.
even though Rand Paul's always been a Republican. But basically, these are guys that they see at least something in one of the parties. They see a segment, a wing of their own wing that could at least bring them to the promised land.
Sure.
And I think that's it. I know a funny quip I've seen about Rand Paul, because I'm a big Rand Paul fan. They'll show that face of him like making like a sad face and just like that moment when you realize you could have been president, but your dad turned everybody into an anarchist. And like there's some truth to that. Like it's like he's actually the embodiment of what Ron Paul was. He's actually a much better candidate than his dad. But it's like but his dad turned so many people into just saying like, screw it, I'd rather not vote at all. And that's kind of what he's stuck with at this point.
And I think my point to what I said just prior about where Bernie Sanders is on the left to where Rand Paul is on the right is you're probably going to get a lot of people coming out there too saying, oh, well, you're talking about what has Joe Biden done, or, what's Joe Biden going to do to change anything now? What has Bernie ever done throughout his time in the Senate? Or what has Rand Paul ever done throughout his time in the Senate? And the point is, and what I'm getting at is, Bernie's influence for the majority of his career in the Senate, there was nothing he could do. He was such a small voice within the left. Right. And same thing with Rand Paul too. He's been such a small voice within the right that they really can't do anything. They can't.
And when you consider that, and then you look at accomplishments of people like that, pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do from a large standpoint. Now, if they become president of the United States, then okay.
Which is why their parties are so scared of them.
Yeah, there's more of what they can do.
And truth be told, and I follow this very closely. I was a big Rand Paul supporter, and then I later voted for Gary Johnson for president. Rand Paul's more libertarian than Gary Johnson. He's significantly more. If you look at their viewpoints. Gary Johnson, in a lot of ways, and I like the guy. I do. I like the guy. I don't regret my vote at all. I wouldn't take it back at all, but Gary Johnson's kind of a lousy libertarian. He's actually kind of like that guy who he's a moderate Republican who has Democratic views on social issues. And he really actually is kind of like lockstep with the Republicans on economics and lockstep with the Democrats on social issues. So that's kind of a lousy libertarian in some ways. Rand Paul, which is why the Republicans are pissed at him all the time, it really is actually kind of a true libertarian. Like Ron Paul was. Except Ron Paul had some kind of goofier fringe ideas. Rand probably shares most of those ideas, but he just doesn't lead with them the way his dad used to. And that's just, on the other hand, like I said, with the lesser of two evils, with Biden, there's several candidates on the Democratic side that if they get it, that just doesn't mean I'm voting for Trump. I already made up my mind. But I look at them. Kamala Harris is the one that pops into my head instantly. If it's Kamala Harris versus Trump, I hope Trump wins. Honestly, I do. I'm not going to vote for him. Again, I made up my mind on that. You know, I have said with Trump there is a handful of things that could maybe potentially sway me to vote for him. They're not going to happen. One of them being one of the rumors that the Trumpkins were trying to start a while back was Trump's going to abolish the IRS. It's like, says who? Says who?
Is that what they said?
That's been going around recently. And I have come out and said, listen, I'll say it. I don't like Donald Trump. He abolishes the IRS. I'll vote for him. I will vote for him in 2020. I will do it. I will vote for Donald Trump in 2020 if he abolishes the IRS. He's got to do it. Not say he's going to do it. Like, he's president right now. He actually has to do it. Mm-hmm. Even if it's through unconstitutional executive order. I will vote for Donald Trump. I will go in there. I'll make sure I don't eat anything that morning so I don't puke in the poll. And I will vote for Donald Trump if he abolishes the IRS. It's 2019 right now, guys. It's not going to happen.
No, that's not.
It's not going to happen.
It's not.
But, hey, you know, I said this when Obama was president, and I'll say it when Trump is president. I don't like him. I root for him. If he does good things, neat. That's great. That's great. I hate saying this because this used to be one of my biggest pet peeves when people would say this about the president. But bottom line with Donald Trump, there's really only one problem with Donald Trump. One big problem. He's just such an asshole.
Yeah.
I've always hated it. I remember when I couldn't stand Bill Clinton. But I remember people used to say that, like, Bill Clinton's an asshole. And I used to say, why do you say that? Guys, this was me as a teenager when he was president. I say, why do you say that? Like, you can't think of a better way to describe the president of the United States. Even if you disagree with him, you can't think of a better way to describe him than he's an asshole. Really? That's all you got? Talk about policy. Talk about what he's done. Talk about why you disagree. Heard of him. I remember people saying it about George W. Bush. They would say a lot of times they would also say he's an idiot. Like, yeah, okay, that's why he graduated from Harvard and Yale, because he's so stupid.
I think just Yale. He didn't graduate from Harvard.
Yeah, he did. Harvard Business.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Graduate degree, business degree afterwards. But
maybe I can graduate from Harvard then.
but again, people would say that stuff about George W. Bush. They'd be like, really? He's president of the United States. You can't think of a better criticism of that. There's plenty to criticize the guy about. You can't think of it. But yeah, now I fall into that. When it comes to Donald Trump, why don't I like him? Because the guy's such an asshole. That's why.
He is an asshole.
You know? I'm sorry. He is. And I know some people love that about him.
Yeah.
Some people just love that about him, you know? And I guess you are entitled to that. You can. As a American voting citizen, you are entitled to that.
Yeah. If you want to vote for him because you love that he's an asshole, that's something that you can do.
That is if that is a genuine appeal to you, okay. Yeah. He says what he means and means what he says. I mean, does he? I actually don't think he does. I actually just think he's just kind of a jerk who just says outlandish and rude things and won't stay off Twitter. You know, but
he says things that he thinks his base wants him to say.
Right.
Wants to hear. That's what he does.
Yeah. No, I mean, and like I've said about Trump before, you know, people always use the excuse, and a lot of times it's warranted. They say, well, he's trying to do the right thing. Congress is blocking him. Okay, that could be said about a lot of presidents, actually, over the years. But I'm sorry, Trump doesn't get that excuse because he is maybe the first president in U.S. history who ran for president saying that wasn't going to stop him. He wasn't going to let Congress stop him.
He was a deal maker.
Yeah, he was going to do it. He doesn't care. He'll bust heads. He'll do what he has to do. He's going to do it. He knows that the swamp is corrupt. He's going to drain the swamp, and he's going to get it done even though they're going to try to stop him. So when Trump or Trump's fans say, well, he'd have done it, but the Democratic Congress is stopping him. No, sorry. You don't get that excuse. George Bush Sr., he got to use that excuse. I'm not the hugest fan of George Bush Sr.'s presidency, but yeah, he said, mark my words, no new taxes, or whatever he said, read my lips, no new taxes. Mm-hmm. His own party screwed him and raised taxes. You know, I mean, they both parties basically double backed and screwed him over. That should have been a legit promise. He really did get like, you know, and then they tried to use it. He's a liar. Like, he's not a liar. Congress actually kind of lied to him and said they'd back him and then didn't. Mm-hmm. You know, so I guess it wasn't a liar. He was wrong.
Keep in mind, too, Donald Trump had both the Senate and the House.
Yep. No wall. No.
I mean, they were both Republican controlled through half of his
right.
Through almost half of his presidency or his first term.
Yeah.
And still, I mean, nothing was able to get done as far as building a wall or, you know, any of this other stuff goes.
And anyone that knows anything about history knows that doesn't matter. Even if it's a popular president, he was gonna lose seats in the midterm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so come on. I mean, you know, I have to imagine, and I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about all the politicians. You know, presidents, everybody in Congress, everybody in the Senate, Supreme Court, all these guys out there, that they have advisors who are smarter than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that.
Yeah.
I could have told you that. So, I mean, who you getting your info from, guys?
And you know what? The wall's never going to be built. It's not going to be built because you know what's going to happen? It's going to be held up in litigation and for however long Donald Trump is going to be president for.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen with this. But
well, and they may get something, but I mean, lest we forget, and we could probably wrap up and go to the Around the Empire, you know, to our news section soon, but they'll get something, and there will be some that will claim victory. The promise was, we're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
At best, we're going to get a fence, and guess who's paying for it?
Mexico.
Right. We're going to get a fence, and we're going to pay for it.
Hey, he was very specific about it, though. It was going to be a big, beautiful wall made out of concrete. Mexico was going to pay for it.
Right. So we're not getting a wall. We're going to get a fence that the American taxpayers are going to pay for. Maybe. And
it's going to be through tariffs or through taxes.
Right.
Direct income tax.
Right.
Doesn't quite roll off the tongue when you're screaming at it at a bunch of your supporters at a rally, does it? Though?
Right. And when people say, well, we have to pay for it, then Mexico's going to pay us back. Okay, if our tax dollars are used for it, and then when Mexico pays it back through tariffs, if the federal government then actually legitimately mails checks back to us,
back to people, okay,
checks, non-tax deductible checks. And that's possible. That could be done. It won't be done, but that could be done. It's very easy to track. They track everything with taxes, not because they care about the money, but because they want to know what you're doing in your personal, private lives. But if they actually track, you know, Bill Gates paid $750,000, and Josh Houslander and Adam Hernandez each paid. Well, Adam paid $372, and Josh paid $264. And then after the wall gets built, we all get our checks
and
in
Mexico
the mail.
pays it back. Yep.
Then promise kept. Okay, but no. At
the
best,
closest thing we'll ever get to that is, say, Mexico somehow pays for it. They write a big old fat check to the United States. That check to the United States is going to go to some bullshit,
right?
Whatever, whether it's increased military spending or something.
Right.
It's not going to go to people.
So the American public will pay for it. Then Mexico will pay back the government.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I guess you could say, well, Mexico paid for the wall, but guess who else paid for it? I mean, so the country gets the wall, and then the government gets repaid for it or whatever, whether that's through tariffs or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or it doesn't, and either way, the people paid for it. But hey, I'm ready to go around the empire with Adam Hernandez. Are you?
All right. Yep. Won't be too long tonight just because we're out of time. But the New York Times, tax documents show Trump businesses lost more than $1 billion in a decade. President Donald Trump's business reported losses of $1.17 billion from 1985 to 1994. The New York Times reported Tuesday, citing information from tax documents from those years. So something is obviously leaked when it comes to his taxes, and I'm sure we could pretty much all kind of see this happening. But $1.17 billion lost from 1985 to 1994, according to the New York Times, based on some tax info that they were able to get their hands on.
Didn't we always kind of know that, though? That Trump was always filing bankruptcy and
I think that's something that could have been assumed.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure business people will come out, like these big business people.
A lot of businesses work on a loss. They work on a deficit.
They work on a loss, work on a deficit. You got to close up shop sometime and start up something new and blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I'm sure, the case with a lot of this, stuff. But, so there we go. There's the first inkling of probably Donald Trump's tax returns and tax information coming out that he doesn't want people to know about. Is there going to be more to it? Probably. But moving on, let's see, what else do we have here? There was another shooting today at a Colorado school. It looks like one has been killed and several others injured. They actually made the arrest, though. They arrested, I believe it was 2 students at the school that actually conducted the shooting. I don't know much more of what is happening with that. According to The Independent, police say at least 7 and maybe as many as 8 people were injured after at least one gunman opened fire at a STEM school in Highland Ranch, Colorado. I'm not quite sure what a STEM school is.
That's,
do you know what a STEM school is?
That's where they focus on, what is it, science, technology.
Oh, is it?
It's I can't remember exactly what STEM, but it's where they focus on science and math.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is the STEM program. It's very, very technical science, math. I think might even be science, technology, engineering, mathematics. I could be slaughtering that. But,
okay.
But it's definitely means it's a science and math based thing.
Let's see. Kim Jong-un supervises guided weapons tests. Trump says, "I'm with him." This comes from the Huffington Post. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervised a strike drill Saturday, testing rocket launchers and tactical guided weapons to increase the combat ability of the nation-state, media confirmed Sunday. Analysts believe one of the weapons was a newly developed short-range ballistic missile, reported Voice of America. Following early reports of the tests, President Trump oddly tweeted Saturday, "I am with him," referring to Kim. "Anything in this very interesting world is possible, but I believe that Kim Jong-un fully realizes the great economic potential of North Korea and will do nothing to interfere or end it. He also knows that I am with him and does not want to break his promise to me. Deal will happen!" Exclamation point. So,
curious.
Yeah. Yep. Let's see. All hail the new king. Thailand's Playboy monarch, who's 66 years old, is carried through the streets of Bangkok in colorful procession and in a lavish 3-day coronation ceremony, according to the Daily Mail. Thailand's new king has taken part in a lavish display of color and pageantry today on the first of his 3-day-long coronation ceremony, which is over now at this point.
Okay.
To the sound of cannons, pipes, and chants, King Maha something 66 was crowned in the country's old tradition in the Grand Palace throne in Bangkok. King Maha is the 10th monarch of the Chakari dynasty, which has reigned over the kingdom since 1782. He ascended to the throne over 2 years ago following the death of his beloved father. I saw some of this on TV. It was
I haven't heard much of
it. It was really quite an interesting coronation. I mean, because I guess the king of Thailand is also kind of seen as a religious figure to the Buddhist faith. And you had like people kind of bowing down in like a religious nature to him also. But yeah, it was
kind of cool. Yeah. Interesting part of the world you don't hear that much about.
Yeah, I want to say I think Thailand though is a constitutional monarchy, so they have some power.
Sure.
And in fact, I don't know if it's like, the Queen of England where, you've mentioned before, where like if the Queen of England comes out and says, I think we should do this, more often than not, the how, Parliament's probably going to be like, okay.
Right.
Who are we to go against the Queen of England?
Yeah, I have a feeling maybe it's, they technically have around the same powers as the Queen of England, but the English monarchs haven't used those in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, what's so weird about like a constitutional monarchy like in England that we hear so much about, we never hear about these ones, and you can't pick up a Enquirer or a Star without, seeing one of the English royals on the cover. But, technically any act of Parliament can still be vetoed by the Queen.
By the Queen of England.
But, I think the main thing is they don't do it because if they ever did it, then maybe it'd be tested and they wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
And then that power would go away. But as long as they never use it, then the power still kind of remains.
Yeah, and on the flip side, too, I mean, what kind of can of worms would that further open up to between, old school monarchy and, new school parliament?
Right.
Whether it's, what kind of further tension is this going to cause?
Yeah, if they were to ever use that power, it might be all over for them.
Yeah.
That might be the moment where they say, "Okay, time to vote away the monarchy."
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's kind of dystopian type of, pessimistic thinking from some certain aspect. I couldn't care less about the fucking British monarchy. Yeah. But I mean, would this cause like, any type of unrest, in the streets of London and England and whatnot? I mean, they already have Brexit on their hands right now, and what the hell they're going to do about that? But all of a sudden, tension between the monarchy and Parliament. I mean, is that going to cause some people to start to stand up for the monarchy, or is that going to cause some people to stand up for Parliament? And I should look this up too. Do you know there's anarchists, but there's monarchists too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. That never crossed my mind, and I was like, I'm gonna Google monarchists.
Do you know what? Why I did some research on that some years ago?
What's that?
Is I have one good friend of mine lives in New York who always argued politics with this guy.
Yeah.
Before I go, I had very similar arguments with him that I've had with you, Adam. He was always on the left, and I was always, more so on the right back then too. We were always arguing with each other, and he was coming back into town, and I thought it'd be funny if I told him that I had switched and became a monarchist. Well, when he came back, just for shits and giggles, basically. So I did a little research on it, and I was surprised when I did the research on it. Some of the finer points, and I was like, wow, you know what? This isn't me, but
Josh is a monarchist.
It's not as this isn't as crazy as I thought. There's some good points here, and I firmly believe this too. I've said this before, and I firmly believe this, that behind closed doors, especially the British monarchy, but probably other royal families, I'm sure do. I firmly believe that behind closed doors, they talk about how hey, let's weather this storm. Maybe this democracy fad's gonna go out. Might be 100 years or so, but just
lay low a little bit.
Let's just
roll with this whole Parliament thing.
Let's do the thing. Well, they'll still keep kissing our rings, and they'll show our weddings on TV, and it'll be good. And maybe some of this will blow over.
We're gonna take control again.
Yeah, and then we're gonna kind of jump back in there, and we'll wait till they really are in bad shape, and then we'll just pounce. We'll just leap back in there and take control. I know they have those conversations. I
you
know.
Think so.
I know
think
they
they have to.
Yeah, that they're like
Yeah.
Especially when there's still like active monarchies, like there's a French monarchy still that none of them have ever been to France.
Yeah.
So they're banned.
Yep.
But they're still there. There's the German monarchy.
There's an Iranian monarchy.
Yeah. There's a Prussian monarchy.
Is there a Prussian monarchy?
Yeah, and the country of Prussia hasn't existed. Not only was the monarchy ousted from Prussia, but Prussia doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah. It's not even a place.
Yeah.
But there's, they're there.
There is a monarchist. I'm looking this up on Wikipedia right now, but the prominent American monarchist, his name is Charles A. Columbi. He was born on November 8th, 1960. He's also an American Catholic author and lecturer. So, yeah, he is a monarchist.
Catholic guy, really? That's kind of weird.
He's a Catholic guy, yeah. Catholic monarchist.
There is a movie, I cannot remember what it is. It's an old movie that I remember seeing in college. One of my history professors showed. Not even the whole movie. I think later I went and rented the movie and watched the whole thing. But it's a story of Maximilian Habsburg in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
They sent him over there to kind of like be the monarch when, to kind of like control Mexico. And he was a good guy. He wasn't but in this movie, they kind of give some speeches of his in it. And this movie is kind of known as showing like the last ditch effort of monarchy. He's showing like the last ideas of them. He's making the case for monarchy, and he actually does a good job of making the case for monarchy in this movie, and it's kind of interesting. I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but I bet I could look it up and probably with a Google search or two find it, but it's showing the Maximilian von Habsburg and how he's trying to show how it's better for the people, and he and showing the stability and even the aspects of potential liberty through monarchy.
Sure.
But it doesn't work. I mean, the Mexicans revolted. and as you know, there's no Habsburg monarch running Mexico right now.
No.
Would they be better off with one?
Who, Mexico?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. So Mexico's actual official name is the United States of Mexico.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Let's see. Anything else? One more here, maybe. Let's see if we have a good one anywhere. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp signs the heartbeat abortion bill. Seems like it's too much talking right there.
Yeah, probably.
Come on, one more. Kentucky Derby, who cares? Did you hear about that? The Kentucky Derby thing?
Yeah, they're suing them now.
Yeah, who gives a fucking shit? God. I don't want to do any more British stuff because I know that whole royal baby thing is going on again right now. Here's a sad one. Pacific gray whales are starving and dying at an alarming rate, and scientists aren't sure what's causing it. According to the Daily Mail, gray whales that have starved to death are washing ashore along U.S. Pacific coast at an unusually high rate this year, according to marine scientists. A total of 31 gray whale carcasses, many of them emaciated, have been spotted on beaches in Washington, Oregon, and California. That's the most dead gray whales since 2000, when 86 carcasses were found. Dozens more of the aquatic mammals have shown visible signs of malnutrition. Scientists say the gray whales are leaner than usual. Some they've seen were so skinny their bones were visible. So,
really?
Yeah,
why aren't they eating? That's weird.
I don't know. Yeah, sad thing though. Gray whales washing up on shores.
They forgot how to eat, or
I don't know. I don't know if these are like those baleen whales. It looks like they might be. like the baleen whales that eat the krill and shit like that, as opposed to the.
Are they wearing like berets or anything? I'm just wondering if they tried to go vegan.
No, I don't think they're doing that. I don't know if whales would hold up very well as being.
Well, they're not holding up very well. They're starving to death. Poor
well,
things.
they're not vegan, no. I don't know. You ever see like those? I saw this nasty video one time. It was this. I think it was like in. It was in an Asian country. I want to say it was like in Thailand or China or something like that, but or Taiwan, something. But there was this big dead whale like on the back of this flatbed truck, like semi, and it blew up.
The whale blew up?
The whale blew up just because of all the gases inside of it and everything.
Oh.
And it just drenched this entire street that they were like towing it down just in fucking whale blubber and guts and just shit everywhere. It was so fucking gross.
You ever seen the one where it's down south somewhere in the U.S.? I don't know if it's a shark or what washed up, and they didn't want to like clean it up the regular way, so like a couple of contractors had this great idea that they're gonna blow it up. Yeah, and they like convinced them that like, oh no, this is gonna work, and it just blew all over the city.
Oh god!
Just disgusting like fish parts, just all over this beach. All like went into the city, just nailed all these people who were like.
Hey, eventually,
and there was just like a few people at the time like. It seemed like a dumb idea, but they convinced us. They said it was gonna work. Like, what are you supposed to do? You know,
Mother Nature will end up taking care of it one way or the other.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were like, oh god, we could have left it there. It'd have been better than this, or just God forbid, do the dirty work and cut it up and haul it away.
Yeah.
And clean up the beach. And
that's one of the problems you run into though with anything that's like dead. I was watching this one, I know it's sick, but it was like on the LA County coroner, and they were talking about just how careful they have to be when they are removing like dead bodies from apartments or houses and shit like that have been there for a while.
Yeah.
Like there's this one guy that blew his head off with a shotgun and he kind of fell back on his bed. And the lady, the coroner who showed up, she's like, yeah, you got to be extremely careful not to move them too much, because if you move them too much, they're going to explode.
Jeez.
And yeah, I mean,
well, because that's why we embalm people.
Well,
right?
we
otherwise, when if you don't embalm,
I think we embalm people more so for like preservation for funerals. I think that's why we more so embalm people. Though.
Yeah, but for the funeral, if you don't do it at
well,
the
if
funeral,
you don't, if you don't do it, then you're going to start to rot. And, you're going to start to rot anyway.
Well, and I mean, most of my knowledge in this comes from Bad Boys 2, but it says like the like a dead body will like fart.
Yeah,
and it'll just like be like disgusting. But basically, that's like blowing up.
And when Will Smith starts feeling up the
like a dead body will fart, and that should clear a funeral out fast.
Oh man, my grandma's funeral was like entirely too long. It was when I was younger. I hope nobody from my family's listening right now, but I'm sure they're probably not. But it was entirely too long. It seemed like it went like an entire fucking week, and her cheek, I remember, was starting to turn black a little bit. It was that's how you know it's gone on too long.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's it, Josh.
That is it. Well, this has been webisode number 100 of the Xcast. It's a good milestone.